Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Fa'awzu billahi min ash-shaytanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni 'ilma. Allahumma faqihna fid din. Allahumma inni as'aluka 'ilman nafi'an wa 'amalan mutaqabbalan wa rizqan tayyiban. اللهم اهدي قلبي وسدد لساني واسلل سخيمة قلبي آمين يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So review of the previous ayat that we did in our last session, inshallah. Ayah number 168. So previously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He warns the people, okay, about who? Shaitan, right? And people who a person follows that mislead him, mislead other people. So basically people who follow shaitan, right? Or people who, because how does shaitan get people to be misled is through other people, right? So when people they follow other people, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that on the day of judgment people will disassociate with each other. They will not be with each other, okay? And even if you followed someone in this dunya who misled you, okay, which led you to the disobedience of Allah, on the day of judgment, people will run away from each other, including family members, and people they will wish that I wish I could go back in dunya and abandon this person in dunya. I wish I had a chance to go back and abandon this person in dunya because this person abandoned me on the day of judgment. But again, there is no going back on the day of judgment. This is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is telling us beforehand, since we are in this world and this is our opportunity to choose the people, the correct people, the right people that we follow in our life. What is the problem with this? Because shaitan, he is a clear enemy to human beings. Okay, so and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. Sorry, ayah number 168. Ya ayyuhan nasu kulu mimma fil ardi halalan. Okay, so another way that a person, why is food mentioned here? Okay, because food is a basic need. And a person, one of the ways that shaitan can mislead people is through diet. Okay, and actually this is a very basic thing, okay, that a person, forget about what you watch, forget about who you're friend with, right? These are secondary things in a person's life. The basic thing in a person's life is their diet, right? Those are the basic things you can't live without, right? When a baby is born, what is the first thing that they do? They're being fed by their mother, right? So it's the very basic need of a human being. Like a human being can survive without other pleasures or luxuries of life, but cannot survive without food and water, right? That's the basic that a person needs. The physical need, the basic physical need of a person is their food. So before anything else, forget about, friendships, forget about socializing, forget about what we watch, forget about other kinds of sins, right? The one way, the very basic, even shaitan, he attacks through the basic, right? So here Allah is saying to the people, eat, okay? Firstly, enjoy Allah's blessings. Okay, food is a blessing of Allah, okay? And it's not just there to fulfill our needs, but also as a source of enjoyment for us. Okay, so kulu mimma fil ardi halalan. Okay, so halal, as we discussed previously, okay, the halal comes in three types. Okay, three kinds of halal. Firstly, halal includes what? The physical quality of the food, right? That it's in its nature is halal. Okay, so for example, that like fruits, vegetables, meat that is halal. Like, you're not consuming someone's not consuming haram meat, or like, meat, or eating pork, like in its physical form, the food is halal. Okay. Secondly, halal includes the way that it is the food, like meat, like chicken, or for example, or beef in general, is we can consume it, but it needs to be sacrificed in the halal manner. So in its physical sense, it's good, but like if you look at a cow or like a goat or a chicken, in its physical sense, it's good to consume. But so physically that is tick, right? That's correct. But it needs to, but there are certain Islamic, way of consumption of that meat. You can't just like cut it open the way you want and just eat it, right? It has to be sacrificed in a certain manner. Okay. So halal, like, by its in terms of not just its physical form, but how it is presented to a person. Okay, so in terms of sacrifice. Then thirdly, halal also includes halal income, the means of, or how that a person got that food. Okay, is it coming from correct sources? Is it from a halal income? Is it the food should not be stolen, the food should not be uh, uh, you know taken in an unjust manner. Okay, so these all comes in making the food halal. Okay, so, and most importantly, halal, like here, includes the physical form, that it is a halal, and this will be further elaborated in the coming ayat. And tayyib means clean, tayyib means wholesome. Okay, food that is not dirty, food that is not stale, food that is not uh, it's uh, uh, it's full of diseases, or it's been infected or something like that. Okay, food not full of GMOs, full of hormones. Okay, so food that is in its pure form. Okay, so this comes in tayyib. And nutritional food, so food that has nutritional value, not just empty carbs. Okay, a food that tayyib also includes a balanced diet. Okay, not food that is like high in certain kind of nutrients, and like having good protein is good, but food that is balanced includes all kinds of vitamins and minerals. That also includes in tayyib. Okay, ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان, do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. What does it mean by following the footsteps of shaitan? Meaning, for example, that comes in terms of food. We're just talking about food here, right? So how does when it comes to consumption of food, how can a person follow the footsteps of shaitan? It means like one way is to make certain things that are halal haram on a person, or things that are haram and make them halal. Okay, so this is one way of following the footsteps of shaitan, to not to make to call something halal and haram by your own whims and desires. Okay, or to something is not halal, but you try to seek an alternate explanation for it, or follow a particular yes, there are certain when it comes to how the meat is slaughtered, there are two opinions about it. That's a different issue. But like some people try to find nooks and crooks and different things, just to be able to consume, just to justify that they can have that McDonald's meat. Okay, when you have halal options available in the city that you live in. Okay, so this is khutuwat al-shaytan. Then khutuwat al-shaytan also includes the way a person consumes food. Just everything, all the other ticks are there. It's halal, it's good, it's everything. But like, for example, khutuwat al-shaytan is overconsumption of food, or very little consumption of food, right? Either it's overeating that leads to a lot of health problems, or someone is not eating at all, starving themselves, or a lot of people that because of physical issues, or the mental health issues, they binge, they eat a lot, and they throw up. It's actually, there's a medical term for it as well. It's called binge and purge, actually. So this is all comes under because of a lot of they don't want to gain weight or something like that. So this all is khutuwat al-shaitan. okay, where just a simple act of eating becomes leads a person to cross the boundaries set by Allah, okay. And it also includes a person eats and that's all they eat, but there's no etiquette of eating, there's no prophetic, the person does not say Bismillah, there's no etiquette of eating. It's not sharing the food, they're very stingy when it comes to, there's no adab. For example, offering the food to people around you, you share the food with people. It's not just for, there's greed when it comes to consumption of food. And it's become a part of the culture, actually, right? People go, they order their own food. They're just, we live in an individualistic society where everyone's concerned about themselves. They go, they order a meal and they're just eating. There is no, sharing of food. Right? And this is not from the our Islamic principles and etiquettes of sharing the food. Okay, then how you eat from the people, even now people don't care which hand they eat from, right? Even though from childhood you're being taught, but as you're growing up, these values are given up. And how do you drink the water, in fact? Okay, what is the prophetic manner of drinking or eating? You sit and eat and drink, and people are just standing and eating. What is the prophetic manner of drinking water? You take one sip, second sip, and a third, you can take a longer sip. But someone's just drinking they finish the whole bottle in one go. Okay, in fact, there's different food eating competitions, that is like, and even Muslims are doing it. But these are like, like this eating, or so this is all khutuwat. This is crossing the limits set by Allah. We don't live an animalistic way of life, we live a humanistic way of life. There's a difference between an animal and a human. Even, and not cleaning up after you eat, that's also important, right? Not taking care of the place that you eat, just crumbs and stuff is out. So these all come under etiquettes of eating. Okay, innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. He is a clear enemy of mankind, right? He wants to misguide people from the very basic act is to eat and drink. So he wants to misguide people. So when the way you consume the food is not, or what food you consume is not good, then imagine everything else. You are what you eat. Even not just the kind of food that you eat, but the way a person eats or drinks, that affects their akhlaq, that affects their ibadah, that shows the kind of person that person is. Okay, what does shaitan do? Ayah number 169. Innama ya'murukum bis-su'i wal-fahsha. He incites in you to commit evil acts. So su are actions that a person is committing, minor sins, all kind of evils, small things that we don't really care about, like here connecting to food. And honestly, none of us are so cognizant when it comes to eating. Even like, we're eating, we have a show on, or people have Netflix on, and just eating, munching. You don't even know how many calories you consumed or how good it's for you. No mindful eating is there. So small actions, you just don't know. If food is just the reason why we have food is to fuel our body, for us to perform, to go about in our life, to fulfill our responsibilities to Allah and to His creation. And of course, it's to enjoy too. You can enjoy all the flavors of Allah, and it's coming up in the next ayat. Okay, and fahsha is, fuhush is all kind of outrageous actions. Okay, actions that are major sins and evil that not only affects one person but also affects the people around them. Okay, so su can be sins. As su are sins that are minor, and fahsha, you can take it as major sins. Okay, so for example, gossiping, backbiting can come under fuhush. Okay, because gossiping and backbiting is not just affecting oneself, one's akhirah, it's also affecting other people. You talk bad about another person, it affects them, and it also affects other people's perception about them. Then committing adultery, it comes under fahsha, immodesty, okay, killing, murder, all of this comes under actions that not only affect a person but also affects the people around them. So he makes a person do small and great sins, and actually small sins lead to greater sins. Okay, and how is this food connected to it? When a person is not eating halal, or if is not taking care of the way they eat or what they eat, it's gonna affect other actions, right? Then once they don't care about what they're consuming with their mouth, they're not going to care about what they're consuming through their eyes. They're not going to care. You think that person is going to be modest? The person is going to lower their gaze. The person's so one thing would lead to another. And shaitan, the trick of shaitan is that he does not cause people to jump to major sins right away. The first thing shaitan does is that he causes people, human beings, to commit small mistakes. And when you let go of small, now it's just one time, no, it's just this thing, I'm just doing a little bit, that small leads to greater sins. So believer is the one who's cognizant of even the small things that he does, so that does not lead a person to commit major sins. Okay. And what is Satan? So he causes a person to commit minor and major sins. وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And he makes people say things about Allah that are not true. Okay, so he causes people, for example, what are the things about Allah that are not true? Some, like as mentioned earlier, it is to say something is haram and something is halal when it's not. Okay, or sometimes, secondly, when a person one person is in doubt. Sometimes people just randomly blurt out, it's in the Quran, Allah said this is very common. People will say, oh, to justify themselves in front of other people, but like, oh, Allah said this. But sometimes a person is in doubt. So when you're in doubt, what is the way? You remain silent. Unless you have an evidence from the Quran and Sunnah, you cannot say that Allah said this or the Prophet said this. Okay? And so, and other way is to, when a person knows that this is incorrect, but they still say the opposite of it and put it on Allah. Allah said this. So this is a big big thing that shaitan causes people to do. He causes people to commit sins, and then he causes people to say things about Allah that are untrue. Okay, today's ayah number 170. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا, and when it is said to them, follow, okay, مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ, what Allah has revealed. When people are told, okay, when people are told to follow that what Allah has revealed, what is the response? قالوا, they say, بل نتبع, we will follow ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا, we will follow that which we found our forefathers doing. Okay, it's the people who are rigid in the Quran is a book that demands change. Okay, Quran is a book that causes people to change their beliefs, to change their lifestyle. If a person is not changing their lifestyle when they're learning the book, that means there is something wrong. Okay, that means something needs to be addressed. Maybe they're not understanding, or maybe they're not applying it properly, because the people, okay, when they're told when they're told the rules of Allah, when they're told the commands of Allah, that iman requires action. Okay, but for the people, okay, who do not have intellect, okay, who lack the intellect, what do they say? Oh, our my mom used to do this, my dad used to do it, my grandfather used to do it, okay, and this is why I do it. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, even though their forefathers understood nothing, nor they were guided. So what does this mean? Okay, this means is that sometimes it's okay to follow the culture. Okay, it's okay to follow the our forefathers, as long as it does not contradict Quran and Sunnah. Right? Some things are part of culture, okay, and as long as it does not contradict Quran and Sunnah, a person is allowed to follow. Like, for example, cuisine, right? Different culture you come from, the food from that culture, there's no right or wrong in that. Okay, you can't have any, as long as what is the contradiction, what is the ruling? It needs to be halal, it needs to be tayyib. As long as the food is that, You can have any cuisine, any kind of food that comes from your culture, okay? Certain cultural practices, but any action that includes shirk, okay, which includes associating partners with Allah, that includes sinning, okay, that includes, for example, some people, their forefathers, yes, they all believe in Allah, the Muslim countries, but they're, from their forefathers, it has been a culture that, you have to visit certain pious, graves of certain pious people and get their so-called blessings and stuff, because my grandmother used to do it, all that. There is no place in Islam for that. You don't, in Islam, you don't need another person to speak on your behalf. Your connection with Allah is direct. No dead person is going to help you. Okay, so these are certain cultural practices that people have. And there are lots of different cultural practices that contradict. So as long as something does not contradict Islam, it's allowed. Okay, and if the forefathers have no knowledge of deen and no reasoning, okay, so forefathers include parents, right? Person has to obey their parents, okay? Obedience to the parents, even obedience to non-Muslim. So a person has accepted Islam and their parents are not Muslim, they still have to treat them with respect and obey them until that person or their parent tells them to disobey Allah. That's where you have to draw the line. So in any practice or action that goes against Islam, okay, a person has to not unfollow that practice, leave that practice behind. Okay, there is no justification that my forefather used to do it, or my culture does it, or my family does it, so this is why I do it. And still to this day, a lot of the people, if you meet and look around, they follow other religions. They just do it because their family does it, right? There was recently, I was talking, there was some Hindu person, okay, and some of the Hindus, they ate the meat, and some of them, they did not eat the meat, and they were asked, like, where is it mentioned in the scripture, like what's the ruling in your scripture? They're like, what scripture? It's like, who do you follow then? It's like, my family, my country, my culture, right? So this thing is that without any basis, you cannot make things halal or haram on yourself just because your family has certain things, okay? And again, to clarify, cultural practices, cuisines, and things like that are allowed as long as there's no element of shirk. It does not go against Islam. It does not go against like the teachings of the Prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, it used to be based on Quran and Sunnah. So such people, the example of such people, مثل الذين كفروا, the example of those who disbelieve, okay, and commit shirk. What is their example? كمثل الذي ينعق بما لا يسمع إلا دعاء ونداء. The example of those who disbelieve or commit shirk or just follow their whims and desires and justify what they're doing by saying that my forefathers used to do it, my family does it, it's my family practice, is that, or like my country does it, is like that of the one who shouts at what he hears, nothing but calls and cries. Like, for example, the example of the one who is told this mess, who commits shirk or commits disbeliefs in Allah, does not use their intellect, right? Islam is a religion of intellect, okay, but they're not using their intellect, but they're just blindly following the culture or their forefathers, is like an example of a shepherd. Okay, yan'iqu is like when a shepherd is calling out to the herd of the cattle. So their example is actually like a cattle, basically. Like, they la yasma'u illa du'an wa nida'a. So they do not, when a shepherd is calling out cattle, right? They're like a flock of, let's say, flock of sheep. Now, when the shepherd is calling out this flock of sheep, the sheep do not have the intellect to know why the shepherd is calling. Is it to remove their fur? Is it to, they just hear sound and they follow the herd. They just hear the sounds. They don't have the intellect to know, oh, am I going to be sacrificed right now? Am I going to be fed right now? They just know their master is calling them. They just follow it. Okay, so Allah describes the people who blindly follow other people, okay, or blindly follow certain ideas, or culture, by blindly following. Is like a cattle, okay, who just hear, just whatever is, it's like sound to them. Okay, summum bukmun umyun, okay, deaf ones, bukmun, dumb ones, and umyun, blind ones. So these people are like, as if, yes, their senses are fully functioning, but if you're not using your senses, if you're not using your ears, your mouth, and your eyes to really rationalize, and to rationalize in by looking at the book of Allah, that person is technically as if that person is deaf, that person is dumb, and the person is blind, even though their physical senses are working. But from an Islamic perspective, or from the Quranic perspective, that person is deaf, as if they're deaf, dumb, or blind. فَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. They do not use their intellect, aql. That the person is like, it's they're just blindly living their life. They wake up, they do their work, they wake up, they eat, they go to work, they go to school, they come back. It's just an auto, they're on autopilot. Their life is an autopilot. There's no use of their intellect and their mind. And this is the reason why, in fact, trials come in life, difficulties come in life. Because sometimes what happens is a person's on autopilot, and really they need some shaking. What is happening right now in Gaza, and whatever is happening in the world right now, there's a great hikmah behind it, right? Of Allah's wisdom behind it, is that things happen, person becomes very comfortable with their they become very comfortable with their lifestyle. They are on an autopilot. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shakes up the person, right? Like, think about all the people that, Muslims and non-Muslims, that are coming towards Quran. They're just living their life, eating, drinking, partying, or working. Just like, it's just a cycle. Like, every day is like, and then suddenly something happens in the world, and suddenly that there's a whole change of perspective. Okay, so this is why trials come. So we do not become, human beings do not become like cattle that is dumb, that is deaf, that is, blindly follow. You're following a religion you have no idea. And it's not just for non-Muslim, even Muslims. You have, just because you're born in a Muslim family, you don't even know why you have to pray. And eventually people don't pray. The reason why people don't pray, or they don't fast, or they do not leave certain things, is because they have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. They have no idea who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. They have no idea about the Quran. So this is like a person who's living their life blindly. Okay, so next ayah number 172. Okay, so this ayah will throw more light on what exactly comes under halal and haram. And there are, again, further ayat that would tell us as well. So inshallah, let's do the word to word for this ayah. Okay, ayah number 172. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuha, O alladhina, those who, amanu, they have believed, kulu, you all eat, min, from, tayyibat, good things, pure things, ma, of what, razaqnakum, we have provided you all. So a big thing, where's the food coming from? Yes, we are earning, we make the money, we buy it, but who is it coming from actually? Well, who provides the risk? Allah. So he mentions here, he brings us back to the core. Who's the provider of all the blessings? We meaning here Allah. So eat from the good things. of what we have provided you all. Washkuru, and you all show gratitude, lillahi, to Allah. In kuntum, if you all truly, iyahu, him alone, ta'budun, you all worship. Ayah number 173. Innama, indeed only, harrama, he has made unlawful, okay, alaykum, upon you all. So this is an explanation, further explanation on what exactly is unlawful. Okay, so what's the general ruling in Islam? Everything is lawful until it's made unlawful. You can't just call anything haram until you know that it is haram from the Quran and Sunnah, right? So harama, he has made unlawful, alaykum, upon you all, al-maytata. Al-maytata, the dead animal, waddam, and the blood, walahma, and flesh, al-khinzir, of the swine, meaning the pig, wama, and what, uhilla bihi, it was sacrificed, uhilla bihi, it was sacrificed, لغير, to other than Allah, faman, then whoever, اضطر, he is forced, غير, while not, baghin, one who desires it, wala, and nor, adin, one who transgresses, fala, that not, isma, sin, alayhi, is upon him, inna, indeed, Allah, ghafurun, is ever forgiving, and ar-rahim, ever merciful. Ayah number 174. Inna, indeed, alladhina, those who, yaktumuna, they hide, ma, what, anzalallahu, Allah sent down, min, of, al-kitab, the book, wayashtaruna, and they purchase, bihi, with it, thamanan, something of value, qalilan, little, ulaika, those, ma, not, yakulun, they consume, fi, in, butunihim, their bellies, illa, except, an-nar, the fire, wala, and not, yukallimuhumullahu, Allah will speak to them. Okay, Allah will speak to them, يوم القيامة, on the day of judgment, wala, and nor, yuzakkihim, he will purify them, walahum, and for them will be azabun, a punishment, alim, ever painful. Ulaika, those, alladhina, are those who, ishtaraw, they have purchased ad-dalala, the misguidance, bil huda, in exchange for guidance or for guidance, wal azab, and punishment, bil maghfira, in exchange for forgiveness or in the place of forgiveness. Fama, so how, asbarahum, how will they be patient? Okay, how will they be patient, ala, upon or against, an-nar, the fire. Okay, last one, 176. Dhalika, that, bi anna, is because of Allah, is because Allah, nazzala, he sent down, al-kitab, the book, bil haq, with the truth, wa inna, and indeed, alladhina, those who, ikhtalafu, they differed, fi, in, al-kitab, the book, la fi, are surely in, shiqaqin, dissent, ba'id. Shiqaq means disagreement, okay, disagreement, ba'id, far. Okay, let's go to the tafsir of these ayat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ayah number 172 elaborates, and from ayah 172 he elaborates on the food. Okay, so, and what kind of food is not halal, which is haram. Okay. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or those who have believed. So the believers, okay, so it was whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he told the Sahabas that whenever Allah used the word in the Quran or the phrase in the Quran, the calling phrase, okay, yeah, ayyuha is a way of calling, okay? So whenever he used that, pay attention, because either that ayah is going to have a beneficial command or it's going to include something that is forbidden for people. Okay, so pay, like when someone goes like, hey, listen up, guys, you're just talking, having a conversation, that's something different. We go like, hey, listen up. So everyone's like, yes, like, yeah, because you're expecting someone to inform you something important, right? So Rasulullah said that whenever this is mentioned, believers should pay attention. Okay, so ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibatin ma razaqnakum. So eat from here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us that eat from that which is tayyib, and only tayyib is mentioned, which also here includes, because the word halal is not mentioned, so tayyib also includes that which is halal. Okay, and ma razaqnakum, that we have given to you, okay, that Allah has provided. Whatever comes to us is from Allah. Okay, and why is this mentioned? Because when a person, every food that they eat is when they remind themselves, or every blessing that they enjoy, they remind themselves it's from Allah. What does this automatically do to that person? It automatically leads them to be more grateful. Okay, and which is the next word, right? Washkuru lillah. When you remind yourself that the food that you consume or the risk that you get is from Allah. The food, yes, it's coming to your table. You go, you work, you buy the food from that money, but where does the risk is from? You put your effort, but the risk is from Allah. And this all food, even when it gets to your table, it's produced by Allah. What if you had all the money, but the land was not producing the food? Okay, so all of that is from, or there was no rainfall, or there was a drought. What happens? So even if you have all the money, it's not going to help. Okay, risk is from Allah. So when a person thinks of that, all kinds of risk, actually, here we're talking about food specifically, but all risk, all success, all any kind of success is from, this all comes under risk. Risk is anything that is beneficial for a person. It comes from Allah. When a person reminds themselves, that automatically leads them to shukr. And what is shukr? Shukr is, it's a state of heart, that heart has gratitude. Okay, then shukr is mentioning through one's tongue. Okay, that you're grateful to Allah, and from your tongue you're like alhamdulillah. In any state, you have this phrase of just alhamdulillah in the heart, then alhamdulillah through your tongue, and then in a person's action. How shukr is shown through actions? It's doing righteous deeds. That's how shukr is shown through actions. Okay, so washkuru lillahi in kuntum iyyahum ta'budun. If you truly worship Allah. Okay, what shukr needs to be shown through one's actions. Okay, it should come in a form of ibadah. He made you happy, he made you satisfied by providing you all the risk, then you also need to gain Allah's pleasure. Okay, if you're true in Allah's in the ibadah, if you're true servant of Allah, then do righteous deeds. If you're truly his servant, that should lead a person to do righteous deeds. Okay, and in fact, in the other places in the Quran, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, O messengers, eat of the good things and do good deeds. Basically, food or any kind of consumption of risk should lead a person to do more good actions. Like for example, you make money, you make good amount of money, that should be used in the way of Allah. Okay, so if that should be used for a person to perform good actions. Okay, risk should be used, risk should lead a person to become more grateful to Allah. And how is that gratitude shown? Through performance of righteous actions. Okay, In fact, we should make dua to Allah. So Mu'adh bin Jabal, okay, he was a Sahabi, and Rasulullah, he taught a dua to Mu'adh bin Jabal, okay, and once he said, "Oh Mu'adh, I love you for the sake of Allah." So do not forget to say this dua after every prayer. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Oh Allah, give me the strength, or give me the intention, okay, to do ala dhikr, to do your dhikr, to do your shukr, wa husni ibadatik, and to perform the best kind of ibadah, okay, the ibadah that pleases you. Okay, so it's all interconnected. Okay, when you consume the good things that Allah has given, that should lead a person to be grateful to Allah, and gratitude is shown through righteous actions. Okay, and all righteous actions, it's a form of ibadah. إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Now here, what is haram? So what is Islamic ruling? Everything is halal until it's proven that it's haram. And what if you're in doubt if something is halal or haram? When in doubt, you don't do it, okay? Or you seek a professional, like your scholarly opinion about something. But if you have no opinion about it, you have not researched, you have not gotten no answer, then it's better to stay away from that thing, okay? So إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمُ. So here, what is haram? Haram is not what people tell you. Haram is not when some so-called scholar on YouTube tells you, or TikTok tells you. Haram is what is in the book of Allah. What Allah has, if a teacher is saying what Allah has said in the Quran, that it's correct. Okay, but no one can make up haram and halal. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةَ. So what is haram? Is maita. Maita is dead. The animal that is dead, that did not die through slaughtering, but died by itself, okay, had a natural death, or got killed by any other way, like by a predator or something. Okay, so that's one. Number one, maita. Number one is an animal, okay, that died by itself or got killed by another way other than a person slaughtering. Okay, so got hit by something, like cars hit animals, or and they die, or natural death, sickness, diseases, and also includes by predators, other animals. Okay, maitata also includes something that has been slaughtered, but in an incorrect manner, meaning the blood is still in the body, un-Islamic manner. Okay, so there's blood inside the body. The blood has not left the body. Then it also includes slaughtered, but not by a Muslim or Ahlul Kitab, people of the book. Again, on the people of the book, there is also other scholarly, you have to do research. You can't just go consume anything that is, by a Christian or a Jew. Okay, so this is not allowed. It's haram. Okay, so an animal that has not been slaughtered in an Islamic manner, but it has died by natural but it's either slaughtered by a non-Muslim, okay, or the one who does not take Allah's name, or the one where the blood has not left the body, or it has died by different other causes. Okay, now this does not include, okay, let's go to the next one, and then I will explain what dama means blood. Okay, so person cannot drink blood. Okay, and Muslims are not allowed to consume blood. Okay, and again, these all things have why we don't do it. Number one, the reason why we don't, because Allah has said it. That's actually the main reason why we shouldn't do something, is because Allah had said so. But on the secondary, there are other reasons. For example, if an animal dies by a disease or something, that the meat is going to be diseased. It's not healthy to consume. But if an animal is, again, predator, just there are a lot of transfer of, if a predator eats the meat, there's transfer of bacteria and whatnot. Of the meat is left around, the moment it dies, there's a lot of bacterial growth. So or if an animal is killed by other means, like a shock, giving shock to the animal and things like that, electric shock and stuff, it releases a lot of the hormones and like the cortisol, for example. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Okay, so imagine eating that meat after. Is it going to be healthy? There are various reasons why. There are scientific reasons, but the reason why, as a believer, is because Allah had said so. That should be our number one reason. And of course, there are a lot of scientific. And again, of course, blood is it's actually a biohazard, right? Blood is biohazard. Okay, it's a brewing pot of diseases. So that's why blood is unhealthy to consume and haram to consume. Okay, except Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, two types of animal which have died a natural death, okay, and two types of blood have been made allowed to us. For example, those that have died a natural death include that we can consume is seafood. Okay, so you don't have to slaughter a fish. You just catch a fish and it will die. Or other kind of seafood. Okay, that's allowed. Okay, and locust. So people consume, not here, but there are places where people consume locust. Locust doesn't have blood. So it's allowed to consume, even if it's died. Even if it's died of natural causes. Okay, in terms of blood, parts of the body that can be consumed that actually contain blood are liver and spleen. They still have, even if you slaughter an animal, the liver and the spleen contained some blood in it. Okay, but it's allowed to consume, where a person is allowed to consume that, but not flowing blood. Not like filling a cup of blood or things like that. Okay, وَلَحْمَ الْخِنْزِيرِ, then meat of swine or pig. Okay, so of course we know that we're not allowed to consume the meat, and not just here because we're talking about food. We're talking specifically about food. That's why lahm is mentioned. But all parts of khinzir are not allowed to be consumed in any manner. Whether it's a skin, whether it's the bones, whether it's hair, all parts of pigs, like for other uses too. Okay, for clothing, for this and that, for these are not allowed. وَمَا أُحِلَّ بِهِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, and those that have anything that have been sacrificed for other than Allah. Okay, so taking names of other than Allah, the people used to offer sacrifices to idols, so that food cannot be, or meat cannot be consumed. Okay, so and the Arabs, for example, used to sacrifice meat and offer they will offer sacrifices to Allah, like will sacrifices, but to our idols, and these will intercede. They will talk on our behalf to Allah. All these things, that kind of meat is not allowed. Okay, that is not, it's haram. Okay, again, what is the Islamic way of slaughtering? Number one, all blood they have to be slaughtered in a manner that all blood needs to flow out, which is the jugular vein, actually. To sacrifice an animal through the jugular vein. Okay, so that is the major vein that will cause all the blood. And actually sacrificing an animal through jugular vein also reduces the pain that is caused to an animal, because the more the animal suffers the pain, the more unhealthy it becomes for consumption, because of all the hormones that are released while it's suffering through that pain. Okay, then so number one, all the blood needs to flow out. Again, this does not include frozen blood. Like sometimes when you get meat, just had a little bit of blood, you're washing it. It's not talking about that. It's not fresh blood flowing, right? It's just like here and there. That's fine, but it includes flowing blood. Like blood is actively flowing out. Okay, so all blood needs to be out. Then when the one who's sacrificing needs to be a believer. Okay, and has to take the name of Allah. فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ. What is the exception? So Islam is a practical religion. What happens if someone is deserted? Okay, if it's that they're deserted, they have no food except what if from these categories. What if there's swine? What if there's pig only? They have no food. There's pig. Or they are in a situation where they're in danger and there's no other source of food. Okay, and again, we're not talking about you have the vegetarian options there, but you don't have halal meat. You can still eat the vegetarian. Okay, we're talking about dangerous situations where there's no other food there. Okay, or sometimes when people are imprisoned, Muslims are imprisoned, and in non-Muslim places, and they're given food that is not halal. Well, if they're going through torture and stuff, what do? So in these situations, okay, so when a person is forced to, so when a person, he doesn't desire haram, he doesn't want haram, okay? Wala adin, there's no desire for that food. Like, I really want to have that McDonald's haram burger. It's not that. It's survival, okay? Then Allah says, فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then there is no sin upon that person. If a person is in a survival situation, there is danger, he doesn't desire that food, he doesn't have any option, and he's not eating that food, he just eats a little bit to stay alive. Not eating to the fill, keeps eating. Okay, you know what? I have no option. There's only this pig, gonna slaughter it and have it, but eat the whole pig. No, this is a situation that you just need to stay alive. So have no desire, and so it's all about intention of that person. Okay. Then inna Allah ghafurur rahim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever merciful, okay, and ever forgiving for that person. Okay, so in exceptional situations, okay, a person is allowed to consume the things that we said are haram. A person is allowed to consume it in exceptional, again, situations when there is no other form of survival, no other form of food, and that person only consumes enough to stay alive, but does not consume to his fill. Okay, so here, subhanAllah, this is from Allah has made it very clear, okay, the kind of food that we can consume, okay, food, Islam takes care of the intellect, the physical nature, the spiritual nature of a person, and hence, because of Allah's mercy and love for the human being, for his servants, okay, he has legislated all these things for our benefit, okay, because food has direct implications, direct effect on the physical and spiritual nature of a person. Okay, so this thing should not be taken lightly. And again, the things that we learn, we should be careful about what we eat. Okay, if it's halal, it should be halal. Okay, and we should not go around giving our own, based on our own desires, rulings and legislations. Okay, you have to make sure that these are from Allah's book, otherwise it's a grave sin. All right, inshallah, we will end here our class for today. Sorry. Any reflections that you'd like to share? Just anything that you learned, or
we should always keep in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's the most forgiving, and in this case we see that if there's no choice, Allah, he tells us that we can sort of go against what we're being told for the sake of survival, which really shows how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's very merciful, and how Islam is it's not a religion of torture. We're not constantly being forced to do these things. These things are sort of beneficial for us, and there's also there's options to make things easier.
Good, yes. In fact, Islam has made life so much easier. In Judaism, in Jewish tradition, you cannot mix meat and dairy. They have different pots for dairy, different pots for meat, and it makes life so difficult, right? So Allah has removed all the unnecessary difficulties, and only things that you have to really think. Actually, there are very less things that we're prohibited from, and there are a lot more things that we're allowed to do. Okay, and this is again, if Allah has prohibited something, then a person needs to think that this is something I really need to pay attention to, because I'm allowed to consume so many things. We have so many food options. If out of them, these Allah said that these are not, we're not allowed, we have to be very careful about it. Yeah, you should like to share?
Yeah, we should always remind ourselves that like food is from Allah, and we should always kind of be grateful for it. And the way to do that is like through your heart, through your tongue, and through your actions. So like say alhamdulillah, and also like do good deeds, to so that you're like grateful to Allah for the food.
Yes. Okay, so mindful eating. Okay, so be mindful of what a person consumes. That will lead a person to be more grateful to Allah, right? And our life has become such that we're not mindful of a lot of things in our life, actually. We just live our life. A new day, it's just a new day. Okay. All right, inshallah. So just a few things. Again, there's a brothers tajweed class that happens on Wednesday if any of the brothers would like to join. So there is you can do, the brothers can do hifs, so please share this, share the khair. Okay, you don't know who might benefit actually from it, even if you don't directly don't have know any male, then spread it around in the groups. Okay, so there is brothers hifs slash tajweed, part-time hifs slash tajweed class. Okay, it's offered by Brother Qasim. He's the hafiz himself, okay, from Al Kitab, and he's also instructor at Ayat. Then brothers and sisters halaqa, so inshallah next sisters halaqa would be around mid December, which we will share the flyer and the date, and we expect and as many of you to attend, inshallah. And inshallah in the end of December or beginning of January, we'll also have brothers archery and basketball. Okay, so different programs for brothers and for sisters as well. Okay, and we will share the detail. Just keep this in mind. And again, also important is that yes, there is a truce, there is a temporary pause in Gaza, but that's something we should not forget. What happens is the hype is a lot in the beginning, and then it's all of us, we slowly die down. Like, our emotions, we just get back into the regular life. We just get caught up with our life. So please keep the people off, we again, important is that we're all accountable for it. So keep doing your sadaqah, keep giving charity, make dua for them, keep going to protest, see what you can do, keep learning, keep gaining knowledge. They are making to Jannah, inshallah. What about us? Right? It's a reminder for us that's what's happening. Don't each one of us also want to die as a martyr? Martyr is not just being killed. The one who seeks knowledge and they leave this world while seeking knowledge or on the path of knowledge. It's also kind of death of a martyr. Okay, so we have to also keep, they are doing their battle. We have to also fight our battles. Okay, don't become complacent. Okay, all of these are tricks of shaitan. He makes people too comfortable and complacent in things. In the beginning, pain and suffering is and then you get desensitized. So as a believer, the worst thing can happen to us is becoming desensitized. Okay, so inshallah. And please also encourage people who come in person to continue coming in person. Okay, and more people to come in person. It's a completely different way. It's a completely different understanding when you come in person. Okay, so if you're able to, please encourage people to come. This is how we build our bonds, how we get together. Okay, we don't know the future, what the future holds for us or our future generations. Okay, inshallah. All right, we will end here. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khair to everyone for attending, and see you all next week. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.